Hello, everybody. We are back. My name is Pam Esquire, also known as Your Law Intellect. Please speak to me as you come in and let me know that you can hear me because this is a different computer that I'm not used to using, but hopefully it'll work out. Please hit the thumbs up. Let me know that we're good with the sound. Let me know. Let me know. Hey, Alice. Hey, hey, Poetic Mouth. This is still muffled. Because then that might be my camera then. Okay. Hold on. Can you hear me better now? Let me know if you can hear me better. Let me turn my sound all the way up. Let me know if you can hear me better. Oh, this camera is horrible on here. Dev, can you hear me good? My voice is here now. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Queen Renee. Come on. Okay. So let's go back. Let's see. I'm going to be working through it. So you guys are going to have to be patient with me because I've never used this laptop. I know this light is just way too bright, though. I'm not going to be able to do it. Let's see. Oh, this camera is awful, but it's okay. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. So now we'll see if we can get this audio. Let's see. Okay. It's not letting me share it.
God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. This is Bishop Lamar Miller Whitehead, and I greet you guys with the love of Jesus Christ. I'm doing this video today because I'm fed up and I'm tired.
Can you guys hear him talking?
The slandering of my name. You can feel how you want to feel, but do not lie on my name and do not slander my name. Most recently, MissJones from the Block Morning Show, who's owned by Paramount and Odyssey Inc. I just filed a $50 million lawsuit against Mrs. Jones and Paramount and Odyssey Inc. Because of the continuous defamation of character that Miss Jones have committed on your radio station. She called me a drug dealer, and she stated also that I was, what did she say? I was clearing money or funneling money. No, washing money. That's what it was. I was washing old drug money through my church. This is a complete defamation of my name. And she said so much more that will be in the lawsuit. I will be posting the lawsuit. You cannot call a bishop of the Lord's church a drug dealer, and you cannot state that I'm using the church to wash drug money. This.
Okay, let's run that back one more time. If we can. No, I don't want it to start acting up, so we're going to leave it alone. So I was just letting you guys see where Whitehead said that he was going to sue for defamation. A lawsuit has been filed, and Miss Jones has responded. So we're just recapping for all of those that haven't seen my prior videos where I talked about the day the lawsuit was filed. I also gave my commentary somewhat in the prior video where I predicted that they would respond with a motion to dismiss. So someone asked, did she say allegedly? We're going to go through and see what her response is. Because honestly, until she filed this response and she provided a transcript, we had no clue what was actually said. So let's try to pull up this lawsuit. Share the system audio. All right, everybody. So this is the lawsuit that was filed. I'm going to have to read it. I'm going to pull it up on my other laptop because it looks real distorted to me on this ghetto HP screen when I'm used to using Apple computers. And this is just to refresh anybody's recollection that hasn't followed this. But most people, if you follow me, yeah, most people who follow me, probably this is just a recap. But what I have on the screen, because you know I want to be fair, I'm going to put both sides so we can have an idea of the entire situation here. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. I appreciate your patience. Defamation. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see the lawsuit on the screen. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold. But basically, in the lawsuit, Lamar Whitehead versus Tarsha Jones, which is Miss Jones, a radio DJ out in New York, very known, considered a legend when it comes to DJ out in that area. Um, so it starts out where it says plaintiff Lamar Whitehead is an individual and presiding pastor of Leaders of Tomorrow International Brooklyn Ministry Corp in Brooklyn. Defendant Tarsha Nicole Jones, aka Miss Jones, is an individual and radio personality. Defendant Paramount Global, DBA Paramount, and WXBK and 94.7. The Blot is the foreign business corporation registered in New York. On or about September 13th of 2022, Miss Jones on her morning radio show on 94.7 The Block said that Bishop Whitehead is a, quote, drug dealer, end quote, using the church to hide that old drug money, end quote, assaulted the young lady, end quote, and his church is where he's probably still doing his dirty work, end quote. Ms. Jones' above listed statements directly concerning Bishop Whitehead are false. Ms. Jones' statements expose plaintiff to public contempt, ridicule, aversion, and disgrace. Ms. Jones' statement implied criminal activity and injured plaintiff's reputation as a pastor. Ms. Jones' statements were published on air and heard by thousands or millions of people. Ms. Jones' statements were made in a grossly irresponsible manner without regard for truth. As a result of Ms. Jones' acts, plaintiff lost business deals. He said he lost church members and income. He also says Ms. Jones committed these acts in the course and scope of her employment with Paramount, thus why he added Paramount on there. And he says Paramount employs Ms. Jones and is vicariously liable for Ms. Jones' alleged conduct. Ms. Jones and Perriman are liable to Bishop Whitehead for defamation and slander per se. Plaintiff requests a $50 million judgment against defendants for actual and punitive damages. Alternatively, plaintiff requests judgment against defendant for an amount of money to be proven at trial for actual and punitive damages. Plaintiff requests that judgment against defendants be joint and several as both defendants. Plaintiff demands a trial by jury on all issues so triable. So that is the lawsuit that was filed where he's requesting $50 million, claiming he was defamed. Now, mind you, in the video that we just heard, the audio was from Instagram, where he said the lawsuit was going to lay out all these defamatory statements. But these are the few statements that he said were made and that they were defamatory and worth $50 million. So now that we're all caught up here, let's see what Miss Jones had to say about this entire lawsuit. Let's see here. So what we have here is, let me move it up a little bit so we can just look at the top of it. We have defendant's motion to dismiss. If you guys recall, in the last video, I said I believe the response should be, which it is, a motion to dismiss this case. And it's for various reasons. And one of the main reasons is, as we talked about before, and I didn't get extensively into it, but there are certain states that are pro-free speech. Some are more pro-free speech than others. They have statutes that are called SLAPP statutes. And those statutes protect people against these type of lawsuits. They also allow you to request that the court dismiss it before you have to get into all this legal wrangling and spending all this unnecessary money. And the purpose is to prevent people from filing lawsuits that are deemed frivolous or that can be proven frivolous or proven that it was false to begin with. That's the purpose of the SLAPP statute. I'm not saying whether, I'm just telling you what the purpose is. I'm not telling you like what the status of this of his complaint is. But that's what a SLAPP statute is. New York is one of the ones that have a very extensive statute that it's very difficult to win on defamation cases. Very, very difficult to win. And probably because they have a lot of celebrity there. California is another one where it's very difficult. They have a lot of celebrities that are there, and this probably happens a lot where it occurs. So there's a protection. But the one that's interesting about New York is in their statute, if it's deemed where it gets dismissed, they shall get attorney fees. So in response, if they have to respond to these type of lawsuits, then that attorney can request attorney fees for having to respond. So there's a penalty for filing these lawsuits as well, which is attorney fees. So you guys are ready to go through her actual response? Say aye. Okay, we got a few ayes in the chat. The ayes have it. Let me pull this up so I can read this off of here, because we were going to get through this even if it was in a let's see. So, as a preliminary statement, this is Miss Jones responding. Plaintiff Lamora Whitehead brings this defamation action seeking to punish a popular morning radio host for comments she made concerning issues of public concern because New York's anti-slap statute applies to this case. Whitehead is required to show a, quote, substantial basis, end quote, for his claim. He has not even attempted to do so in his spare two-page complaint. As an initial matter, Whitehead fails to allege the existence of clear and convincing evidence that the statement at issue were published with actual malice. We went over what malice is. And in addition, the challenge statements are not capable of sustaining a claim for defamation because A, two of the challenge statements identified in the complaint do not actually appear at the radio broadcast at issue, and B, two others, while appearing in the program, are not of and concerning Whitehead. So basically, she's saying two of the statements that he's saying happened never even happened. She never said it. And then she's also claiming the other two statements that are being alleged that she said they happened, but they wasn't even talking to him. She was generally speaking. And we'll get into that more in the response. So they say for the reasons in this complaint should be dismissed with prejudice. Moreover, because this action was commenced without a substantial basis in law or fact, Jones should also be awarded her attorney fees and costs as is required by the anti-SLAPP statute. So then they go into the factual and procedural background. Y'all, let's move it up a little bit. We go into the factual and procedural background. Plaintiff Whitehead is the pastor of a church in Brooklyn, New York. Defendant Jones is the host of Jonesy in the Morning Show on station 94.7 The Block. Then they say the events of Whitehead's church. Whitehead was the apparent victim of a robbery. And they have that, the robbery, while giving a live stream sermon at the church on July 24th, 2022. In the wake of the robbery and the ensuing media attention, questions arose about Whitehead and the source of his lavish lifestyle. In response, Whitehead publicly addressed this controversy, including during a press conference at which he defended his lifestyle, contested media accounts of the value of the property stolen during the robbery, and attacked the media for allegedly mischaracterizing him and his church. And what they have under here, what you see are a bunch of footnotes that reference different articles related to Whitehead. So all of the media stuff and all the media attention, as predicted, they're being used in this complaint against him in this response. So if you look, it's a bunch of links that take up almost a half a page within itself of, NYPD preacher wife robbed of $1 million. Bishop Whitehead's live stream robbery could be fraud, radio facts. They're just putting what says the Steve Harvey Morning Show says Bishop Whitehead's live stream robbery could be fraud, radio facts. Bishop answers questions in 1 million church robbery. These are all links that they have in the bottom of this document. Whitehead reenacted the robbery at his next live stream Sunday service in the following weeks. These controversies remain the subject of widespread discussion. Let me move this down a little bit. About 2 months after the robbery on September 18th, 2022, Whitehead was once again the subject of media scrutiny following a videotape altercation with a woman named Tarsha Howard. Prior to this altercation, Howard was apparently recording a video of a service at Whitehead's church. So they get into the incident that occurred at the church that we are all aware of, related to the two individuals that came to the church, one of them being Tarsha Howard. After Whitehead invited her to come up to the pulpit, she did so. Whitehead then violently grabbed Howard by her neck. Whitehead can be heard directing members of his congregation to grab her out. Quote, both Whitehead and Howard were taken into custody, though Whitehead was not ultimately charged. Shortly after the incident, Whitehead posted a Facebook live stream video defending his behavior. The incident and Whitehead's response to the ensuing controversy it created, including a press conference he held, received widespread media attention. So, the complaint attempts to bring claims of defamation and slander per se regarding statements made during an episode of Jones' radio program, which aired on September 20th, 2022, 2 days after the incident. The program, a true and correct copy of the complete program, is attached to the affirmation in Exhibit 4 to 11. So basically, they provided a hard copy to the court of what was actually said in this radio program. They also attached for us a transcript of the important parts that occurred relevant to this response. Specifically, Whitehead bases his claim on 4 statements which he alleges were made by Jones during the program. He put Whitehead is a drug dealer, Whitehead is using the church to hide the old drug money, Whitehead assaulted the young lady, and Whitehead's church is where he's probably still doing his dirty work. The complaint alleges that the challenge statements are false and expose Whitehead to public contempt, ridicule, aversion, and disgrace. It further contends that the challenge statements were made in grossly irresponsible manner without regard for the truth. In fact, 2 of the challenge statements were not actually made in the program in any form, and 2 others were not made about Whitehead. And then they have an affidavit of someone that advised that they listened to it, I assume, and it was never in there. In the program, Jones did address the robbery and incident, but used those events as a jumping off point for a broader discussion about minister wealth, the preaching of the prosperity gospel, and being careful when choosing a spiritual leader to follow. Along with addressing other topics and playing music, the discussion of these issues took place over approximately 20 minutes of the 4-hour program. To assist the court in reviewing the discussion, a transcript of only the potentially relevant portions of the program prepared by a court reporting service also accompanies this motion. During the program, Jones first addressed and introduced an audio recording of the incident before segueing into a discussion about, quote, fake pastors generally. So then they quote the audio. And then and the transcript location. At the beginning of this transition to a broader discussion, Jones specifically stated that she is not going to call Whitehead a fake pastor. That's in the audio. She then proceeded to discuss these, quote, fake pastors, describing how some are, quote, former drug dealers that go and serve time and decide to come out of prison and figure a bright way to wash the next load of drug money is to get into the church and stand behind the pulpit and no one's going to question you. Then they put the audio. In the same half hour, Jones again played the recording of the incident, audio 2. They have that attached. She criticized Whitehead for inviting the woman up to the pulpit before claiming he was threatened. She then turned again to her broader point, noting that the, quote, takeaway is that, quote, you got to be careful who you expose your spirit and your soul to, end quote. And they have the audio and they have the transcript. She added, you guys got to be mindful. Everyone with a flashy suit and a $300,000 car is not the person that you need taking the word from, is all I'm saying. Audio to at, and it has where the audio is. Later in the program, Jones had a conversation with contributor Ronald Andrews, randomly Rules Jr., about the incident, which again led to a broader discussion concerning minister choice. Without specifically addressing Whitehead or his church, Jones opined that you don't want to turn people off from going to church or getting the word, but you just got to be real mindful of whom you're getting that word from, because there are so many drug dealers now that are coming out of jail and saying that they've changed their lives, and maybe they have. But sir, I don't need you to become a preacher because you want to wash the rest of that drug money that you hid in the offshore account somewhere. No, you can't be a former drug dealer and be my pastor, bishop, none of that stuff. Then they attach the audio. Once again, these comments related to a discussion about religious leaders in general and did not refer to Whitehead. So they're saying even what she was discussing wasn't even of and concerning him. He basically started the conversation. Jones later briefly mentioned the issue of fake pastors again in a preview of what was coming up on the show. Jones then referenced the incident during the discussion about out of control pastors. That's another audio. Within the context of this conversation about spiritual leaders generally, Jones addressed how churchgoers feel compelled to give their savings to churches as tithes, while certain pastors can purchase luxury items and afford expensive schools for their children. In reference to these type of pastors, Jones opined, I know it's got to work on your psyche of, am I paying? Are we all paying that much in tithes? Probably not. Portion is probably that old drug money, but you are contributing to their lifestyle. Jones did not identify Whitehead as one of these types of pastors, nor did she suggest that Whitehead himself was a former drug dealer. She also introduced a lengthy clip from a different pastor, again criticizing the prosperity gospel message. So, it sounds like even in this video that we all could never saw, the audio we never heard, that Whitehead wasn't even the only pastor that she mentioned. She had a general topic just about prosperity pastors or prosperity preaching in general. As the program neared the end, Jones briefly rehashed the discussion of the day. She then again played clips of the incident and the critique of the prosperity gospel. She concluded, you've got to move from discernment and armor up every morning. And what that looks like for you, I don't know. I know what it looks like for me. And then she has the audio. Somebody, right, Alice? AKA Prosecutor 95. That's what it sounds like. That's what it's looking like. At no point during the program did Jones or any other speaker allege that Whitehead is a drug dealer or that he was using the church to hide that old drug money. While Jones made those two comments during the program, she did not make them about Whitehead. Neither Jones nor any other speaker made the two other statements included in the complaint, period, about Whitehead or anyone. None of the air talent said that Whitehead or anyone else's church is where he's probably still doing his dirty work. Furthermore, none of the air talent used the word assaulted to describe Whitehead's interaction with Howard. The complaint asserts two claims, one defamation and two slander per se. The parties stipulate to extend Jones' deadline to respond to December 12th. So those, according to Jones, are the facts of what occurred on her radio show. She has provided the court with audio, and she has also attached transcripts in order to back up her claim. So now we get into like the actual argument. So I think you guys can pretty much fathom what the arguments are. She's basically saying two of them she didn't say, so it can't be defamation. And two of the comments wasn't of and concerning him, so I can't defame you. So that's that in a nutshell. But I did want to briefly discuss the New York anti-slap statute. And they discussed that, of course, in here. We're under the New York anti-slap statute in a case involving public petition and participation. A motion to dismiss shall be granted unless the party responding to the motion demonstrates that the cause of action has a substantial basis in law. So basically, it's going to make him present his case almost in response to this before this goes any further, because she's basically saying, I've shown that this case should not be going on. And there's a specific statute, like I said, that allows you to do that in order to avoid certain type of lawsuits. And because, you know, some people try to do it to try to muffle free speech. So New York was like, we're going to make it where if it needs to be dismissed early on before we even get into litigation, we're going to allow people to dismiss these cases. And that's what this statute is about. And that's how she responded. So once a defendant shows that a case involves public petition and participation, the substantial basis standard shifts the burden at the motion to dismiss stage to the plaintiff. So now Whitehead's attorney, and Whitehead is going to have to establish by clear and convincing evidence a substantial basis in fact and in law. To meet this heightened standard, a plaintiff must provide strong evidence that a trier of fact could determine that there exists a high degree of probability that he can prove the elements of his claim. The high standard of review is the legislative determination to protect public discussion, which would be chilled by long litigation and its cost. On a motion to dismiss involving CPLR 3211 sub G, a court is required to consider the pleadings and supporting and opposing affidavits stating the facts upon which the action or defense is based. So I'm trying to find what's not going to bore you guys to death. You know, I could read this stuff all day long. But let's see. So that's where we are with the response. She's basically saying, because we all were wondering about those statements, like, where did those statements happen? Are the statements true? Where can we find those statements? I was all over YouTube, and the clips she's had from her morning show, I couldn't even find it. So we were waiting on him to release those actual audio clips, and he never released them. So she goes on to basically say this case easily meets the standard. Whitehead cannot seriously dispute that a radio broadcast is not a public forum. I mean, we all know that. He basically said that in his platform. Nor can Whitehead seriously dispute that a minister's wealth, its origin, and the prosperity gospel's effect on religious practice are matters of public concern. So we're all interested, and they listed a whole lot of they listed various, well, a few cases that talked about wealthy pastors, and ABC News reporting on wealthy pastors. So it's a matter of public concern. It's something we've all talked about. He brought himself out to the platform. He went on all of these different platforms and he discussed this robbery, and it became a matter of public concern. When you talk about, and then as we see in the paper, they were talking about him long before we even knew who he was. They were talking about what he wore. They were talking about, you know, the judgments against him. They were talking about all of this stuff, calling him the bling bling bishop. They were doing all this stuff before we even knew him. So we know that if we weren't interested in him, the way that he came out in the public, he made us want to be interested in. He made us curious about him. So now you made yourself something that is of public concern. Well, we probably wouldn't have been concerned about somebody else. So then they go through and they say Whitehead cannot show the requested substantial basis for his claim. Let's see. So Whitehead has failed to state a substantial basis for his defamation claim for at least 3 separate reasons. One, he has failed to demonstrate clear and convincing evidence of actual malice. 2 of the alleged statements were not actually made in the program. And 3, the other statements were not of and concerning him. So then they go on to go through that. Whitehead said failed to demonstrate the challenge statements were made with actual malice. Let's just go through malice real quick because I think people get it twisted on what malice is as it pertains to defamation. Because freedoms of expression require breathing space, and because mistakes are inevitable in free debate, the First Amendment requires public figure defamation plaintiffs to prove that the publisher made the challenge statements with actual malice. That means that a plaintiff must show that the defendant published false information about plaintiff with knowledge that it was false or with reckless disregard of whether it was false or not. It is not enough to show that the defendant was negligent in publishing. A plaintiff must demonstrate that the author is in fact entertained serious doubts as to the truth of the publication or acted with a high degree of awareness of probable falsity. The anti-SLAPP statute imposes the actual malice standard in all cases to which it applies, even those involving private figures. So typically with public figures, you have to prove actual malice regardless. If a public figure tries to bring a lawsuit against someone, if they're a public figure, you have to show actual malice. Under the anti-SLAPP statute, they make it where it doesn't matter if you're a public figure or a private figure, you still have to show malice. So that's that heightened standard I was telling you in New York, where you're going to have to go through some hurdles for defamation in New York. So that is the definition of malice. So let's go down to, we're going to go over the transcript before we get off of here. But I did want to go where she said, Jones is entitled to recover her attorney fees and costs. Under New York anti-SLAPP statute, Jones is entitled to recover costs and attorney's fees for defending against Whitehead's claims. Pursuant to the 2020 amendment to the anti-SLAPP statute, recovery is mandatory if a defendant succeeds on the motion to dismiss. And then it has the actual statute. Cost and attorney fees shall, which I told you guys earlier, shall means that it has to happen as opposed to may is discretionary, shall be recovered upon a demonstration, including an adjudication pursuant to subdivision G of Rule 3211 of Rule 3212 of the Civil Practice Law and Rules, that the action involving public petition and participation was commenced or continued without a substantial basis in fact and law. So basically, she says Whitehead's claims fail even if the anti-SLAPP statute somehow does not apply. For the reasons listed above, the provisions of the anti-SLAPP statute apply to this matter, and dismissal should be granted on that basis. However, Whitehead has failed to meet his burden even under the less stringent standard. Pursuant to CPLR 3211A1, dismissal of a complaint is warranted where the documentary evidence submitted conclusively establishes a defense to the asserted claim as a matter of law. In this context, the liberal standard of construing A pleading on a motion to dismiss does not apply because the court is not required to accept factual allegations that are plainly contradicted by the documentary evidence. So they came with an alternative. They was like, Your Honor, if the slap statute doesn't apply, which we know that it does, that's what they're saying, we're going to give you an alternative reason to get rid of this and to give us our attorney fees for him filing this. And then they go over the complaint failing to adequately allege actual malice. And we just went over that. And that's pretty much the generalization of their response. So let me go in. Ray Bishop said, is there any way he can appeal or avoid paying his? Nope, it has shall in the statute. It used to be up in the air. And what happened is a lot of judges, because it was discretionary from the case law that I've read, they weren't granting attorney fees. So then they made the statute amended where it's a mandatory. So it's a shall. If I win this dismissal based on the slap statute, then I am entitled to attorney fees. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's see. I haven't even looked at the transcript yet, but like I said, she actually attached a transcript as well. And this is the transcript that was attached. So now that we can see what was actually said. So she has Tarsha Jones. Goodness, you go to church for salvation. We go to church for leadership. Who knew you could get a choke out by your own preacher? We have audio from Bishop Whitehead, who is the Brooklyn bishop who allegedly staged the robbery that we discussed a couple of weeks ago. We thought here on Jonesy that it was a convenient videotape robbery, and it's come to our attention that it was allegedly all staged and planned by him. So now there's another incident that was also videotaped of him choking a woman who is a part of the congregation, and we have audio of the woman saying something, him just retorting back to her. Then he goes into speaking in tongues, which for those of you that don't know what speaking in tongues means, I can't even begin to explain it either. But it's like when the Holy Ghost comes inside of you and you speak the language of the Holy Ghost. But here's the audio of the preacher choking out the patron. So then she plays the audio. And she goes through what they actually transcribed the audio. Okay. So when she says that he said that Bishop Whitehead said grab her out, that was in this transcript. They see right here, if you look, it has audio videotape and it says what Whitehead said that day. Wow. So let's get back to what she said. So she goes on and says, it's too early. It's too early for the gaslighting. It's too early for the fakery. It's just like it's a lot right now. First of all, you are supposed to be a man of God. You're supposed to be serving the people. Why are you encouraging a woman to step forward in your church? And when she does, you have her snatch. And then after you have her snatched, then you flip the script and say, you don't feel safe. Because what the judge is going to say is, if you didn't feel safe, you had time to get away from her. Well, that's what the judge did say. Nowadays, they're telling Trump that he's okay. He still has privilege, so ain't no telling. But typically, the judge would say, you weren't in harm. Excuse me. You had a chance to get away, but you incited it. You encouraged it. You engaged with it. She goes on to say, I think my issue is more of these. Do I say, quote, fake pastors? End quote. Okay, so I'm not going to call him a fake pastor. So she did say, she clarified and said she was not calling Whitehead a fake pastor. She said, but I'm going to say former drug dealers that go to serve time and decide to come out of prison and figure a bright way to wash the next load of drug money is to get into the church and stand behind the pulpit, and no one's going to question you because there's so many people just looking to be led, the blind leading the blind, willing to pay you the tithes to clean their souls and give them a word of hope and encouragement to get them through the week. That's the longest scam running. Trev's wrapping me up. When we come back from the wrap up, like I need to really scratch that surface more and continue playing the audio. It's the Jonesy in the morning. Keep it where you got it. So then she goes on break. She plays her music, all of that good stuff. And then she comes back from her break. And we're on page 8. Or is it on page 7? 6. Woo, y'all. I hope you guys are hanging in there. It's a lot going on in this response. So she goes on to say, and this is the transcript of the audio. So now we know what was actually said on her radio station instead of just going by what was alleged in the complaint by Whitehead. So she goes back again. It looks like she replays it. She replays it again. The video of Whitehead, she replays it. So let's go through that. So after she replays the audio again of the incident that happened with Tarsha Howard, she goes on, she being Tarsha Jones, Miss Jones, says, can you imagine getting up Sunday morning after you've been whatever you do on your Saturday nights? I know mine be very slumming. You force yourself to get up and dress up and go to church only to get choked out because maybe you disagree with something that the bishop or the pastor or whomever you're going to see is saying. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a man putting his hands on you, a man that you're going to for leadership, maybe, and the word, encouraging his people to snatch you, and he encouraged you to come on and then got violent with you? And then claim that you made him feel threatened and that his child had a gun in her face, which I'm not knocking that or playing about that at all. That's a serious matter. But if there's that level of fear, why is the baby there? Because the robbery allegedly just happened a couple weeks ago. Isn't it a little too soon? Maybe for people to have access to your immediate family, sir? So they arrested him, and now he's claiming he was publicly embarrassed. This is the lawsuit. This is you better call Sam and Dan lawsuit. She came in the middle aisle and just started cussing me out, calling me all types of names, calling me all types of things. Okay, sir, then why didn't you have her restrained and removed? Why did you ask her to come towards you? And then when she did, you snatched her and choked her. You didn't care about your child being traumatized by that. You didn't. Why weren't you thinking about the child when you knew what your plan was? He says she wanted to come up here. You want to come preach. Come up. I'm going to make you famous. Where was the care about your child and your wife then? This is why I say You got to be careful who you expose your spirit and your soul to. That's the takeaway here. I'm not even going to go further into this. I'm going to set this right over in the chair. You guys got to be mindful. Everyone with a flashy suit and a $300,000 car is not the person that you need to be taking the word from, is all I'm saying. So that's what she had to say about that whole entire situation that occurred at the event center with the incident with Tarsha Howard. I see some of you guys are agreeing with her statements. Right. So then she has more pages where she talks about friends, it's Jonesy's Juice coming up. However, we have an audio of a pastor that mimics my sentiments of other pastors just on the take and doing the wrong thing. And some of you guys just feeding into it and making them rich and wealthy when we return. So then she comes back. Tarsha says, "Hey, sorry, we got disconnected. You were saying that it feels like the world is in a crazy place, and I said I think it all started from the governmental crazy, and now it's trickling down into everyday people crazy because you were referring to the pastor that choked out the patron." So somebody named Ronald Andrew Ruelas Jr. says, "Yeah, well, it definitely doesn't feel good if church is like, to me, that's like the epitome of, reset, get your spiritual side together. And if that's going to start off that way, like, yeah, it's the trickle effect for sure. And I think also when you have the government, like you're saying, acting a certain way, being silly, it just makes everyone else say, why can't we act up?" So Tasha says, right. And then this other person, Ronald Andrew, says, we're doing things the right way. We're waking up every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. We're going to work 9 to 5. Some people have kids. Like, we're doing the most. And yet, where do we get to act out? So it does piss me off a little bit. So then Tarsha responds, right, right. And then it's kind of like it's mixing because you don't want to turn people off from going to church for getting the word, but you just got to be real. You have to be real mindful of whom you're getting that word from, because there's so many drug dealers now that are coming out of jail and saying that they've changed their lives, and maybe they have. But sir, I don't need you to become a preacher because you want to wash the rest of that drug money that you hid in an offshore account somewhere and think that because so many people are just looking to be led, and the guy says yes, right, that you've got the ticket, the winning ticket now. No, you can't be a former drug dealer and be my pastor, bishop, none of that stuff. Nope, nope. Then the guy Ronald says, you got to be mindful. There's always a scam. You always got to have your head on a swivel too. But listen, if you do want to get your spiritual side, I think what you should do is just do the online church. That's all I want to do. I want to spend an hour. I want to get the good word, but I don't need to be in a facility for that to happen. You said Whiteheads probably well, because when Whitehead presented this, if I recall correctly, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, he said he had family and friends and stuff calling him saying she was talking about him on the radio. I don't think he ever really said, I heard it myself, I have the audio myself, and I don't think he ever said that. And clearly, based on this, they made it a segue to a conversation that a lot of people have, a lot of vloggers have, a lot of YouTubers have. It's just a conversation that a lot of people have when it comes to prosperity gospel. And they turned it into a segue for a conversation. So yeah. So there we have it, folks. We have some more of this transcript. It is long, but as you can tell, my throat is gone and I have court in the morning. But I wanted to share this with you guys. And we also have a plane to catch in a couple of hours. But yeah, let me go hit some of your comments and see. Thank you guys for hanging out with me as always. That's correct. She didn't reference his name. Casey said they not playing. Just that I've heard several pastors and bishops refer to him not by name but by the words fool in New York wearing $1 million items in church. Well, they call him the bling bling bishop in the paper. Yes, thank you. I do need some tea or something. Thank you. Hey, Ayana, I missed you too. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. You know what? That's right. Allegedly. All of this stuff is allegedly. Oh, man. And you said, I hate responding to frivolous. Really? Seriously? What a waste of the court system. I agree. I agree. I have one that I have to respond to this week that the judge pretty much already told them, well, I probably won't rule in your favor, but I still got to respond to it. And it's going to be long. Like, I'm going to have to really spend some hours responding to it. Thank you so much. I have my tea, guys. Oh, thank you so much. Well, thanks for showing up. We had some problems at first. I don't know. My Apple is like tripping. I got to get some keys replaced, and I think it affects the entire system. So I had to use this little HP with the horrible screening. Yeah, that is my Cash App. Mm-hmm. Where you where do you practice at? AKA Prosecutor 95. Where do you practice at? What state? And are you a prosecutor? Where does he supposedly get his money? Because his church. Oh, you practice in Florida. I might have a case coming in Florida, so I might need you to pro hockey in. Oh, you're a DA. Okay. That's what's up. No, but for real, I do have a case that's probably coming, so I might have to hook up with you. You said case dismissed. I'm not poetic mouth. I'm not. I appreciate the HP right now. I literally only use it to type stuff up, and that's it. And then, like, if my clients, because a lot of our hearings are on Zoom. So if my clients, like, they don't know how to use Zoom, they're older or whatever, I have them come into the office and then I have them use this computer. I didn't even know if I was gonna be able to share it correctly. I didn't know how to use the software to do this live stream on. This is the first time I'm doing everything on here. So oh, thank you so much. All right, y'all. Thank you for hanging out with me. We got a good hour in, and we're going to keep on following this. I also have something for you. I'll be back on tomorrow, hopefully. Hopefully, I'll be back on tomorrow or at the latest on Wednesday. I have a couple of things that we have to discuss outside of this case. But yeah, I gotta prepare to leave and go to LA. And so I'll probably be coming back to you guys on assignment. I will. I'm gonna definitely reach out to you. Hit me up. My email is in the description box. Just email me so that I can have your email address. Thank you. I will. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I will holler at you guys next time.